Hi, this is Ryan, and I'm going to be real with you right now. I'm still kind of angry. I just finished this testing session maybe 40 minutes ago, and I genuinely could not believe what I was seeing on my monitor. I bought the 5 best-selling webcams on Amazon, not random picks, not sponsored suggestions, the actual top 5 sorted by sales rank, the ones your coworkers are buying, the ones showing up in every best budget webcam roundup on Google. And I put them all on camera at the same time, same lighting, same distance, same PC, and 4 of them, 4 out of 5, looked absolutely horrible. We're talking green-tinted, soft-focused, noisy, embarrassing footage that I would never want a client or a boss to see me through. And here's the part that got me. One of them said 4K on the box. 4K! I'm going to show you exactly why that's a lie in about 90 seconds. And it comes down to something called sensor size that nobody, and I mean nobody, talks about in these Amazon listings. If you've ever bought a webcam based on the resolution number, you have been misled. Subscribe right now because this one actually matters. Okay, so let me set the scene for you because context matters here. It's evening, right? Maybe like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I've got my overhead studio light on, one light, nothing crazy, pretty much exactly what a normal home office looks like after dark. And I've got all 5 of these webcams lined up, clipped to a makeshift rig I threw together, all pointing at the same reference target. Same distance, same USB ports. Actually, wait, I did have to swap one because it was fighting for bandwidth. I'll get to that. And I pulled up the feed side by side on my monitor and stared at them for a second.
And my first reaction wasn't even anger. It was more like confusion. Because 3 of these things looked so bad that I genuinely thought something was wrong with my setup. I started unplugging and replugging, checking the software, wondering if OBS was doing something weird. Nope, that's just what they look like. That green-gray, Vaseline-smeared, almost dreamlike softness you're seeing, that's the actual output. That's what the person on the other end of your Zoom call is looking at when you're in your home office at night. And you have no idea because your own screen just shows their face, not yours. So let's start with the thing that actually matters and that everyone skips over. The sensor. Not the resolution, the sensor. Here's the deal. Every camera, whether it's a Hollywood cinema camera or a $17 webcam from a brand you cannot pronounce, has a physical piece of silicon inside it that captures light. And the physical size of that silicon, like the actual millimeter dimensions of the thing, is probably the single most important number in all of imaging. A bigger sensor collects more light. More light means less noise, better color, sharper detail in real conditions. It's not complicated. It's literally physics. Now, the problem with webcams, and this is the industry's dirty little secret, is that nobody lists sensor size in the Amazon specs. You scroll through the listing, you see resolution, frame rate, field of view, maybe something about AI noise correction, and that's it. No sensor dimensions. And the reason they don't list it is because if they did, you would immediately see that the $18 webcam has a sensor roughly the size of a sesame seed. I'm not being dramatic. We're talking 1/10 of an inch diagonal. That is genuinely tiny. And a tiny sensor in low light doesn't just perform a little worse, it falls off a cliff. The image gets noisy, the colors shift, the auto exposure starts doing this weird pumping thing where it can't decide how bright the scene is, and everything just looks wrong.
And the Logitech C920, which is honestly this decade-old design that people keep writing off as outdated, uses a noticeably larger sensor and a Carl Zeiss lens with actual optical coatings. And I know Carl Zeiss sounds like marketing fluff at this point, but the reason that camera still holds up in 2026 is because the glass and the sensor underneath it were engineered to work together. When I pulled up the C920 feed next to the no-name 4K unit, it wasn't close. The C920 looked like a real camera. The other one looked like a webcam from 2008 that got wet. Actually, wait, let me back up because I want to address the 4K thing directly because this one genuinely frustrated me. One of the 5 cameras I bought, and I'm not going to name it yet, claims 4K in the title. Big, bold 4K right there in the product name. Has like 4,000 reviews, 4.5 stars. And here's the thing. I know enough about USB bandwidth to know that real 4K uncompressed runs at roughly 3 gigabits per second. The cable on this webcam is USB 2.0. USB 2.0 has a maximum bandwidth of 480 megabits per second. So the mouth doesn't even work. It's not possible. What they're doing is capturing a much lower resolution image and then using software interpolation, basically stretching the image and filling in fake pixels and calling that 4K. It is not 4K. It has never been 4K. The people writing great 4K quality in the reviews have never seen real 4K and nothing to compare it to. And look, I don't even fully blame the buyers because Amazon's search algorithm rewards these listings. The fake reviews push them to the top. The inflated resolution claims make them look competitive on paper. And the average person buying a webcam is not sitting there calculating USB bandwidth limits. They're just trying to look decent on a Teams call, which is completely reasonable. It's the listing that's lying, not the buyer that's naive. Here's where it gets more specific though, because sensor size and resolution aren't the only things that separate a usable webcam from a waste of $30.
Autofocus. This is the one that actually made me laugh out loud during testing because I was not expecting it to be this bad on some of these units. So here's what autofocus is supposed to do. You sit down, you lean forward slightly, maybe you pick something up to show the camera, and the lens adjusts in like a fraction of a second, and you stay sharp the whole time. That's it. That's the job. Simple. 3 of the 5 cameras I tested either had no autofocus at all, like literally fixed focus, meaning there is one distance at which you're sharp, and if you move 2 inches closer, you are a blur. Or they had autofocus that hunted. And hunting is this thing where the camera can't lock onto you, so it just cycles in, out, like it's trying to find you. Every 8 to 10 seconds, just this slow drift out of focus and back on a call while you're talking, while someone is trying to listen to what you're saying, and instead they're watching your face go soft and sharp and soft again, like some kind of visual seasickness. I actually sat in front of one of these for about 4 minutes, just watching the hunting cycle, and I kept thinking, someone bought this for a job interview. Someone used this to pitch a client. And the whole time, the camera was just slowly losing and finding their face on a loop, and they had absolutely no idea. Because again, you cannot see your own feed unless you deliberately check it. The fix for this, the actual engineering solution, is something called phase detection autofocus, PDAF. It's the same technology in your phone camera that locks onto a face in like 0 time. It works by splitting incoming light and measuring the phase difference between 2 versions of the image, which tells the processor exactly which direction and how far to move the lens. It's fast, it's confident, it doesn't hunt. The Insta360 Link 2 has it. That camera locked on my face when I leaned in from like 2 feet away, and it was done in maybe 1/5 of a second. No drama, no drift, just sharp. That's what focus is supposed to feel like.
Now, the reason budget webcams don't have PDAF is simple. The module is more expensive to manufacture, and it requires a more capable processor to handle the calculations in real time. So every camera under about $60 is running contrast detect autofocus at best, which works by analyzing the image for contrast edges and adjusting the lens until those edges are maximally sharp. It works okay in ideal conditions. In mixed or low light, it starts hunting because the contrast signals get muddy and the algorithm loses confidence. That's the physics of it. You can't software update your way out of a hardware limitation. Okay, so let's talk about microphones, because this is the one where I feel like I need to grab you by the shoulders. People treat the built-in microphone as this throwaway bonus feature. Like, oh yeah, it has a mic, great, whatever. And I get it because nobody's out here making YouTube videos called I tested 5 webcam microphones. But here's the reality check. In a video call, audio problems are more disruptive than video problems. If your face is slightly soft, people adjust. If your voice sounds like you're calling from inside a fish tank, people ask you to repeat yourself constantly, and it kills the flow of every conversation you have. I recorded the same 30-second clip through all 5 microphones. Same room, same ambient conditions, same distance. And the range was genuinely shocking. The better units had clear, present, directional pickup. You could hear my voice sitting on top of the room noise with some actual separation. The worst unit, and again I'll get specific in a second, sounded like I was speaking through a cardboard tube in a server room. There was this constant low-frequency hum under everything, my consonants were getting smeared together, and there was a weird digital artifact that kept clipping the starts of words. That camera is sold to people who work from home. That is what their colleagues hear every single day.
And here's the part I genuinely didn't expect. Even one of the mid-priced units, one that I came into this test kind of rooting for, had a microphone driver bug on Windows 11 where if your PC goes to sleep mid-call and you come back, the mic just stops. Not reduced volume, not muffled, gone. You're on mute and you don't know it. And the only fix is to physically unplug the camera and plug it back in during a call. I found 3 separate Reddit threads about this exact issue going back almost 2 years with no firmware fix ever shipped. That's not a quirk. That's a product that was released and abandoned. So we've got bad sensors, broken autofocus, and microphones that are either embarrassing or literally bugged out. But there's still one more thing I need to show you, and honestly, this might be the most insidious part of the whole thing. The reviews. I need to talk about the reviews because this is where the whole scam completes itself, and if you don't understand this part, then everything else I've told you doesn't fully land. So you're on Amazon, right? You're looking at webcams and you see this unit. Let's call it what it is. It's a no-name brand with a name that looks like someone fell asleep on a keyboard, and it has 4.6 stars and 3,200 reviews. And your brain does what brains do. It sees social proof, it sees a number, it relaxes. 3,200 people can't all be wrong. Except they kind of can. Because the review ecosystem on Amazon for sub-$30 electronics is genuinely broken in a way that I don't think most people appreciate until they've spent time actually digging into it. I went through the 1-star and 2-star reviews on all 5 of these cameras, not the summaries, the actual individual reviews, and the pattern on the budget units was so consistent it was almost boring. Dead on arrival units, microphones not recognized by Windows, autofocus that never worked from day one, footage described as blurry, green-tinted, or dark even in bright rooms. And then right next to those, you've got these 5-star reviews that say things like, great quality for the price and works perfectly, posted by accounts with 1 review created the same week. I'm not saying every positive review is fake. I'm saying the ratio is being manipulated and you are making a purchasing decision based on corrupted data. And the for the price framing, I want to pull that apart for a second because it's doing a lot of work in a lot of reviews. Great for the price has become this get out of jail free phrase that essentially means this is bad, but I paid almost nothing, so I've convinced myself it's fine. But here's the thing, $30 is not nothing. And more importantly, you're not buying a $30 object. You're buying the thing that represents your face and your voice to every professional contact you have for the next 2 or 3 years. The cost of looking unprofessional in 1 job interview, 1 client pitch, 1 performance review call, that cost is not $30. Actually, let me revise that slightly because I don't want to make this sound like you need to spend $200 to get a decent webcam. That's not true, and I want to be precise here. The honest answer is that around $50 to $60 is where the market actually changes. Below that line, you are almost certainly getting a compromised sensor, fixed or hunting autofocus, and a microphone that will embarrass you. At $50 to $60, you can get a camera with a real autofocus system, a competent ISP chip processing the image, and dual microphones with actual noise separation. The jump in real-world quality from $25 to $55 is not incremental. It's a completely different category of product.
The Logitech C920 sits right in that zone. And look, I know it's not exciting to recommend a camera that's been around since like 2012. I went into this test genuinely hoping something newer and cheaper had dethroned it. But the reason it's still the answer at its price point is because Logitech spent real money on the glass, on the sensor, on the ISP, the image signal processor that handles white balance and exposure and noise reduction in real time. And those are hardware investments that don't get cheaper to replicate just because time passes. The no-name brands are not building better versions of the C920 for less money. They're building cheaper versions of a worse camera and putting a bigger resolution number on the box.
Now, if you have a real budget, like $150 to $200, the Insta360 Link 2 is the answer, and it's not particularly close. The sensor is physically larger than anything else in the consumer webcam space at that price point. The PDAF is instant. The AI tracking actually works, like it follows you when you move, it reframes when you stand up. It does this thing where it zooms in tighter when you're presenting something close to the camera and then pulls back when you sit back. And the low light performance at night in my studio was genuinely the first time I've looked at a webcam feed and thought, yeah, that actually looks like me. Not a compressed approximation of me, me. So here's where I land after all of this. If you are currently using one of those no-name Amazon webcams, the ones with the unpronounceable brand names and the 4-point-something star ratings, and the 4K in the title that we now know is a complete fiction, please just stop. You are not saving money. You are paying $30 to look worse than you would on a 5-year-old laptop camera, and broadcasting that to every person who matters in your professional life, and they are too polite to tell you.
Buy the C920 if you're working with a tight budget. Buy the Insta360 Link 2 if you're serious about this. And the next time you see a 4K webcam on Amazon for under $30, remember what I told you about USB 2.0 bandwidth and just keep scrolling. Share this with someone who's about to make the wrong call. Literally. I'm Ryan, and I'll see you in the next